big welcome to the podcast, Empower Her. And I'm so excited to have Margaret Kelly with us here today from Kenya to Northern Ireland. And we are excited. She's a transformational speaker and a Phase 1 certified business coach at the Napoleon Hill Institute and an advocate for women's empowerment. Born and raised in Nairobi, Kenya, she is passionate about helping individuals break limiting beliefs, rediscover their authentic voice, and create lives aligned with purpose and confidence. A very big welcome to the podcast. Today we're talking all about Empower Her, and your chapter is chapter 9 on page 93, Learning to Say No. And this is really interesting. So a lot of us do struggle with this, learning to say no. And Margaret says the moment you start loving and appreciating your unique self, it's the moment you begin the journey back home to who you were always meant to be. And I love that. This journey back home to who we're always meant to be. So we're going to start in a place of my African roots. Place of cool waters, Nairobi, Kenya, is where I was born and raised. It has been given the nickname the Green City in the sun due to the numerous natural springs and parks. I didn't know that. So let's start there. I like to start at the beginning, I think, Madge. Let's go back there and see what it's like to be a young girl in Kenya and perhaps feeling that their voice might be silenced. Big welcome.
Well, I'm very fortunate to have lived with my dad. My mom was in the village, and I lived with my dad in Nairobi because he had to work, and mom had to be in the village to take care of everything. So my growing up without a mother was a different feel. It was very different because everyone had their both parents and all that stuff. And as a young girl, it was really challenging for me. And also going to school, we had to really walk like 1 hour to go to school and come back. And Nairobi was really a peaceful place, and it was really what can I say? It was we're living in a middle class place, so it wasn't the rich. We're just middle class family, and it was very humbling. And yes, we made do.
And so when did you start to feel that your voice was silenced?
Well, we are 8 in a family, right? So I had my four brothers and 3 sisters, and most of them used to be in the boarding school. And when they used to come back home on holidays, the house used to be quiet when I was living with my dad and my brother. But when the rest of the people came to school, from boarding school to the house, it was like all of a sudden it's a noisy place. So even if my voice wasn't heard, even if I tried to say something, it was always, oh, shut up, you're a child, you can't say anything. Oh, if I had an opinion, and we're living in Nairobi in the city, people have opinions. We are taught in school to in school we're free, we'd speak English, but my brothers and sisters would come from the village, and they would they would hear us speak English, and they'll go like, why are you speaking like that? Or if I had an opinion, they'll go like, no, you're a child, stop. So I used to just dim my light because of the fear of being told you're small, you shouldn't speak, you shouldn't have an opinion, you shouldn't talk back to your elders. I wasn't abusive, I was just challenging the ideas, but that wasn't allowed. So for me, I felt caged for
And
a long time. Yeah.
and I hear also, so even for the listeners, family dynamics are huge. Like even for some of you, you may have felt like the older siblings were getting you to be quiet, or perhaps you were one of them as well, who knows. But the burden of being the yes girl, you say sometimes saying yes seemed like the only way to maintain peace, to stop a fight before it started. And I understand that. You said I had no sense of my own mental, emotional strength, courage, values, and resilience because the other person always came first. And so
Absolutely.
Yeah, and in life we are taught, to be of service, to think of the next person. If we spend our whole time thinking of ourselves, it wouldn't be a great thing either, right? But when your whole life
Yeah.
is just saying yes to others to appease them, what was that like?
Well, for me, it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun, but I took it like I wore it with a certain knowledge that okay, if I was agreeable, then I'm out of trouble. But mostly, it was I think I was very strong, opinionated, not unrealistic. I was very very realistic. I used to question things. I used to see things happen, and I'm like, why is this happening? And I wasn't getting upfront answers which were solid or understandable, or people are not. Basically, I think I was holding people accountable, and they couldn't like defend themselves, or they were like they're using the oh, I'm older than you as a defense instead of having a conversation. So for me, I was finding like, why are we doing this? So it was really hard to penetrate in conversations because there was no breakthrough, there was no mutual conversation. It was just only one-sided. I say, and whatever I say goes. So I
Mm.
used to really, really find it hard, of which, yeah, it was really challenging.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking of you with your dad and sort of me with my dad. My dad used to say, now you can talk, be quiet. And he'd laugh because he just loved the chatter. I was a bit of a chatterbox. I would talk about
Wow.
everything. Someone would say something, I'd say, oh, why was that? And I wasn't saying why to be a nuisance. I didn't even realize that people didn't like the why word. Um, my parents absolutely loved it. They would always explain things to me. So I was very much like that with my children. But I was curious. And so, if I was told something or why, I really always wanted to get to the nitty gritty. 1 + 1 =
Yeah.
2. Okay. So I was always asking these questions. And it wasn't until later in life, and I was working that, I was curious. I want to know more. And people would get a little bit defensive sometimes with why. But I can see you and your dad, you were probably able to have conversations with him at home because it was just you.
Well, I tell you what, when I was living with him, with my brother, that was the most peaceful time. But when everyone else came around, it was just all over the place. And my dad especially used to get me and get where I'm coming from because, uh, I mean, our lifestyle was different from my other siblings. Theirs was a bit rural, ours was a bit more modernized. So when these two combine, they just don't like agree or meet or something like that. But he would tell me, he would understand me, he would even give me those looks like, oh, just calm down or take it easy. So at least I used to find solace in that, but it didn't help much when he wasn't around. So I was left with, you know, all the crazy when he wasn't around, yeah, that I had to deal with, yeah.
All the chaos. I was
All the
meant to be
chaos.
seen. I was meant to be seen, but not heard. So we can
Not
see
her.
that sometimes happens definitely in the bigger families. And can I just ask you, because I'm curious, and this isn't in the book, the chapter's amazing going through the reasons and why it's so important to learn to say no. And I'm glad that you say yes to you when it's important. I'm glad you said yes to empowering more people in the world and joining us on this journey as well. So, how did your father, like, if he only had two of the eight, how did you get to be one of them? How did he choose the two that were going to move to the city out of the rural?
I think there was a time when I lost my brother. I was really, really small. I was probably 5, and we lost my brother, and now we had to relocate. We had to actually relocate to the village. So my dad had to stay in the city, and I think they spoke. My dad and my mom spoke, and they had an agreement. But my dad told my mom, "Okay, you can take the rest of the children, but leave me these two." So it was me and my brother. Leave me these two, especially me. My dad couldn't let me go to the village, and he was just like, "I want this girl here. I want this girl with me." That's why we ended up staying, the two of us with my father, and then the rest with my mother in the village. So
And
it just
were
happened that
you
way.
the two youngest?
Yes, the two youngest. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So he probably didn't, he was probably worried what may have happened in the village and perhaps thought it was safer and wanted to educate you there.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
Mm.
Did you ever ask him?
No, I never got to ask him because we were not, at some point, he was really strict and all that stuff. So there was a lot of fear and all that stuff. But I actually respect his judgment, and I thank him for that for sure. Because it has made me who I am today, with a different my mindset, with a different point of view of things because of my surrounding and where I grew up.
Yeah.
I also got
Yeah.
to see so many things. Yeah.
Incredible. You have a header in your book, The Golden Rule of Respect. Obey your elders, stay in line, be quiet. And you went on, I was always too much or not enough, too loud or too withdrawn, too opinionated or too disconnected. I think we can all feel that a little bit at times. I carried a silent challenge while trying to carve out my own identity. And, it's interesting. I was orphaned in Australia and then adopted. And I've worked around the world. And in India, they tell me my skin's too dark. I shouldn't get in the sun. And in other places, I'm too white. I'm too short. My face is too round. You know, um, we
You
live with
can't
all the
win.
we live with all these things, don't we? It's really, really interesting, and it is a challenge, and we do take a lot of that into our future. But I want to hear more now for our podcast listeners around the radical power of saying no. So, when did you first hear about it? When did you first start practicing it? And what has been the results of it?
Well, I started realizing that I have to say no to things when I moved to Northern Ireland, because when I came to Northern Ireland, I saw things differently, of which I was feeling when I was back at home. I was feeling this is not right, or this shouldn't be like this, but I just didn't get people around me who would activate it and make me feel like you're this is real, like you're right. So when I came to Northern Ireland and I saw how things are different and how people are carrying themselves differently, I'm like, my gosh, I've been believing a lie, or I've been living a lie, or I haven't been really uh, valuing myself and my voice and what I want. I've always been letting people run my life, talk things into me, and I believe them. So I started. I was for 1 year I was in a quiet place, and I had an introspection and started watching motivational videos and all that stuff, and I knew that there was something deep inside of me that needed healing. So I had to forgive everything that happened to me, the people that put things on me that I accepted, and I had to shed off. I had to like heal. I had to like set myself free from all the negative limiting beliefs that I'd grown up with, that I'd assumed were truth, and they're not truth. I realized, oh my God, it wasn't about me. It was about them. They didn't know any better. So I had to let go of all that. And then now I realize, from now henceforth, how do I treat myself? Do I accept situations that are not favorable for me? Or should I just be honest and authentic? And even if it will make someone feel uneasy, but does it make me feel better? So I started making small choices and decisions, and cutting off people as well, who are bringing all those old energies back to my life, so that I can have a new, fresh start. And that's when I started saying, okay, this person, when I talk to them, I end up feeling worse than we started. I'm like, now I'm cutting this out. This one I have to stop. Slowly by slowly, I just like win them out of my life. So I've winned a lot of people out of my life, and I realized I'm back to myself, and I'm like, I'm feeling jovial, I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling focused. I'm able to do things which I used to be shy about, because people used to tell me, who do you think you are? Like, they wouldn't see my potential, and I knew I had something to offer. I knew I was built for greatness, or built for more, and
Yes.
to have an impact in the world. But the people around me weren't letting my light shine. They were always dimming it, like, oh, you're this, you're that. Oh, you think you who do you think, all those things. And it got into my head, and I had to break free from all of it. And now I believe I recognize even when someone starts or the way like it starts, I know, okay, so this is where we're heading to. And I switch my mind. I have things that I do that I don't let it in. And yeah, so it's been really a journey. It hasn't been easy. I've had to forgive, heal, and just let go of the limiting beliefs. And that's when now I started saying, Marge, this is what you want, say yes. This doesn't serve you, say no. And that's in little moments I've been learning to say no, of which it hasn't been easy, it has been hard, but I'm working on it even as we speak right now.
Yeah, great. The radical power of saying no, because what I now know is that agreeing to everything isn't kindness. So it's interesting. Agreeing to everything isn't kindness. Silent acceptance is not strength, it's surrender dressed up as peace. I'm going to repeat that again
Absolutely.
for our listeners because this is so
Mm,
powerful. Silent acceptance is not strength, it's surrender dressed up as peace. Wow. And,
yeah.
I think the same thing happens, they say don't talk politics, religion, sex, but the same sometimes when we stay silent with things that aren't right, um, it's surrender dressed up as peace. It's surrender, isn't it? It's, oh, well, can't do
Mm,
anything about
yeah.
that. I'll put up with something that isn't our value, that isn't our country's values. And so it's interesting times right now, as you know, around the world as well. And so saying no is important. It's
Mm,
important. It's important for our leaders that
mm,
yes doesn't always bring um, people together. Yes can separate nations when they're saying yes to the wrong thing, right?
mm, mm,
So,
mm,
so
mm.
that's really, really powerful. And I think in our businesses too, and for those listening that, we say yes. And, I remember Richard Branson say yes and figure it out. Um, and so I have done that with a lot of things, but it's also important to know when to say no, when it's not
Mm.
aligned with the values, you know, because
Absolutely, and
that's
especially
when,
that, because go ahead. Mm,
no, I was going to say that's when our business gets split. That's when people who
mm,
thought they knew you go off, you do something opposite against um, your values, and then it starts to create, the mistrust in the business with your teams, etc.
absolutely. And then sometimes when you say no, especially what I've realized, when you say no, people like for me, I experience people are like, oh, you've changed. Oh, like, oh, we all need each other, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, sometimes even when you say no or you have okay, you don't agree with an opinion, people really don't even want to work it out. And okay, fine. So this is where I stand, and you step aside. But saying no makes you look like you're not yielding. So sometimes people find it hard. Like now you've become a hard person to deal with, and they label you as, this kind of a person. But this is a new identity that you have to adopt so that you yourself, you find peace. You yourself, you have time for yourself to take care of yourself. You have time to think about other things which are more important to you than to always say yes to other people's
Yeah.
things and leaving yourself
Leaving
bare.
yourself there. Yeah. I think I led my life a lot as a people pleaser, because I
Mm.
really do like people and I really do like people to be happy. But,
Yeah,
and in marriage, you do that. In families, you
yeah,
do that, to keep the peace. But sometimes, like I've been married 33 years, and
yeah,
sometimes you've got to draw the line. You've got to know and understand those values that are important to you to be you. Because when you
yeah.
compromise everything that you stand for, you lose pieces of you. And
Absolutely,
to go into the
absolutely.
transformational leadership journey. Many years later, which you were just saying you relocated to Northern Ireland with your husband. Now, this is a little bit of an interesting story, and I'd love the listeners
Mm,
to hear a little bit, find out a bit more about you. And because I was really interested, I was like, so your husband was in Kenya and you moved, and you said, no, no, my husband came from Northern Ireland to Kenya. So let us know a little bit about what he was doing and what you were doing at the time, because this is a beautiful story.
So let's just start from the beginning. Like when I was in Kenya, in a city called Mombasa, I had my own studio doing photography and documentary. And in that season, I was just praying to God to open a way. And eventually I got a phone call, and there are these volunteers who are coming from Northern Ireland to build schools in Kenya for the girls who've been sexually molested. So I had to do the documentary. And when I went there the first day, I met this gentleman who was speaking to the lady who would hire me. And so that's when I met Paul. And it was Paul's last day at the site, at the building site. So actually, I tell people that I met my husband at a building site. And so we exchanged numbers, and we kept in touch. And then a year later, he's like, when we're just talking on the phone casually as friends, right? He's like, when is your birthday? I'm like, it's on this day. Do you celebrate your birthdays? I've never celebrated my birthday, like a birthday is just like any other day from where I come from. So I was like, no, I've never celebrated. He's like, whoa, we must celebrate. I'm coming over. And I'm thinking, who does that? Who flies miles and miles away and comes to, like, this? Is it a Cinderella story, or am I dreaming? I was like, no. But he showed up, and he came for my birthday, stayed for 1 week, and we bonded. And when he went back, he's like, do you want to come and visit? And I was like, yeah, why not? And at that time, I also needed change, and I just knew it was the right thing to do. And I came over to Northern Ireland, and like they say, the rest is history. So I'm glad I made a move. And at least this time I said yes to myself, and it has been the best decision that I've ever, ever, ever made in my life, for sure. It really, really transformed my life, for sure.
But it's just such a beautiful love story. And you said that your leadership journey began when your husband introduced you to the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, the man who interviewed more than 500 millionaires to gather information for the book Think and Grow Rich. So let's hear a little bit about your journey now.
So my husband signed up to Napoleon Hill Institute, and then he was doing classes, and I was always behind the scene. And I used to listen to the webinars, and I'm like, whoa, this information is powerful. And I would drop by and say hi to the people in the Zoom meetings, and it's like they knew me, but from afar, from the backstage. And I just got involved with this information, because I was like, this applies in my life. And then I would do whatever the Napoleon Hill principles ask us to do, and I would see my life transform. I would see the things that I've been dreaming of. I've been seeing the things that I've been working on, things that have been challenging me, and I'm applying these principles just in my day-to-day lives, not something big, and they made sense. So I was like, whoa, I'm curious. Then there was an event that was happening. The Napoleon Hill Institute directors were coming to Northern Ireland to do a conference, and I was like, oh my gosh, I must go and meet the people that I usually see on the Zoom. So I went for the conference, and all of us are there, and I meet these amazing people. And the lady, the CEO, Cleona O'Hara, goes like, anyone wants to coach with me? And I'm like, I raised up my hand, and I stopped. Like, before I would be shy, I'd go like, who do you think I am? All those voices from back home. You can't raise up your hand. You're not worthy, and all that stuff. But this time I was just like, yes, I want to coach with you. And I stood up bold, and I don't know where that came from. So I went with her at the front of the audience, and we started chatting. And she's like, do you want to become a coach? I'm like, yes, I've always, this is what I want to do, to change people's lives, to change people's mindsets, to change people belief about themselves. And she's like, you know what? We have granted you a scholarship to study at the Napoleon Hill Institute, and it was worth a lot of money, that scholarship. And I'm like, my gosh, this is a miracle, and this is a chance for me to, change my world and change other people's worlds, and who have faced the same challenges that I have. So I was just like, oh my God, dreams do come true. And also I realized that persistence and just being in positive vibration, and also just knowing your worth, and not letting those negative self-talk take over, then you can achieve whatever you want to achieve. So at that time is when I started studying with the Napoleon Hill Institute. And fortunately, I got to graduate last year, and I became a coach. So that's the journey. And I've been using the principles in my life, and I've seen a change. And that's why I even made the decision to join the Writers Club, the Writers Retreat, because it was one of those goals that I wanted to achieve. And in with Napoleon Hill, he says, write down your goal, what you want, and eventually, when you take those steps, you should see it happen. And I went for the writers retreat, and then now there's this opportunity for the Empower Her book, and I'm like, all these things don't just show up. You have to put yourself in that state of mind. You have to align yourself. You have to be in that, that uh, that space. So I realized that being in doing all this stuff with the self-development put me in a position whereby I am ready to accept the goodness of life, of which before I wasn't ready. I wasn't mentally ready.
Mm.
And now I'm ready to accept the goodness of life, to share it, to empower, to just be a light to the world. Because that's what I want to be.
Wow. And that's definitely how we see you. And Napoleon Hill said every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. Imagination is the workshop of the mind. Isn't that fantastic, everyone listening? Imagination is the workshop of the mind. What you can imagine can
Absolutely.
become possible. So, rewiring the
Absolutely.
subconscious mind, you speak about that in the book as well, about
Yeah.
throwing away the keys to conditioning and limiting belief systems, because that's where disempowerment sits. And empowerment
Yeah.
comes from being able to rewire that. Uh,
Yeah.
so before we start to wrap up, because we do have a dice that we are going to roll a question with, I just wanted
Uh-huh.
to ask you, is there anything else that you would love the listeners to hear from you today?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. What I want to tell anyone who's listening is that you are a very important person, and you have all the abilities that you need to achieve your dreams. Let no one tell you that you can't do this or you can't do that. Napoleon Hill says, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. So whatever you desire is desiring you. And desire comes from God. Like whatever you want is what God is wanting for you. So you have to put yourself in that state where you have belief. Remove any doubt, no matter even if it seems like things are crazy. Like he says, every adversity, every failure, every heartbreak carries with it a seed of equivalent benefit. Whatever you're going through right now, it's not the end. In that situation that you're going through that is tough, find an equivalent benefit. There is something that is in there that you can get out of and come out with something beautiful. So trust in yourself and have faith, and yeah, dream, imagine, and however crazy, however big, it's yours. And it definitely will happen if you like plan and just be in a positive vibration. Yeah.
I love, love, love that. All achievements begin with a decision. And my decision was
Yes.
simple, you said, simple and clear, that I will no longer shrink to fit the social mold for conformity's sake, but I will be authentic in my own skin by embracing my uniqueness. I love that. Let's lead us into a throw. What number do you have? Yay, it's a
Oh,
different one this time.
that
It's a
is five.
5. Fabulous
Oh
5.
geez.
Let's see. Oh, the line in the sand.
Oh
This is
geez.
the question. The line in the sand. What will you no longer tolerate in life, work, or relationships?
Wow, the line in the sand. I right now I prefer honesty. I prefer integrity. Yeah. So I cherish integrity right now in my life, like, because I know the beauty of it. Because at some point in my life, I didn't live with integrity, and right now I know it's the foundation of it all. So I would not tolerate anything past that. Yeah.
I love that. So we want honesty and integrity. So
Mm,
this is the line in the sand. If you can't be honest with me in work, life, or relationships, like it just starts
yeah.
to send off those bells, those red flags. This is my line
Yeah.
in the
And
sand.
that's
Just,
why that's where the crazy all starts.
yeah, the truth will set you free, right?
Yes,
Especially like
yes,
my family,
absolutely.
being a body language expert, like straight away I start to feel it, and I'm just like, oh, and so if it's a little thing, it might slide. If it's a bigger thing, it's like having someone in the CIA or, in your family. So I try not
Yeah.
to interrogate too much.
Yeah.
But it's true,
Yeah.
the truth will set you free. And that saying, you can't handle the truth. I can't handle the lies. I need the truth. So I
Well,
I
it's
can,
good for people to actually just be honest, because people who have the capacity to hold the truth, if it's told, they
yes,
have the capacity. So we have to trust that, and
yes.
just so that at least the rest of the thing can work. The rest of things can work out for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And if you're worried, you could say to the person, do you want me to lie? Do you want me to tell you the truth? But when the truth is your truth, right? It may not be their truth, but I can
Yeah.
only be honest with my truth. So very interesting. All right. So as we wrap
Absolutely.
up, and we want to thank you so much for this
Yeah.
amazing podcast today and for your story in Empower
Thank
Her.
you
It's
too.
incredible. The last thing I'm going to leave everyone with as we go is the big question for every woman. The question begs, what in your life would shift if you have your permission to be bold and say no?
Mm.
Until the next podcast, thank you, everybody, and speak soon.
Thank you very
Bye,
much.
Madge.